July has arrived, but don't make the mistake of thinking the planting season is winding down. In reality, there's still plenty of time to fill empty spaces in your garden and enjoy another round of fresh harvests before cold weather arrives. In today's video, I'm sharing 10 vegetables and herbs that you can still plant in July. Many of them mature surprisingly quickly, while others continue producing right up until frost. With a little planning now, you can keep your garden productive for months to come. Let's jump right into it. Plant 1. Cucumbers. The fairest crop on the list is cucumbers. Even though many gardeners are harvesting cucumbers by the bucketful this time of year, it's definitely not too late to plant another round. If your growing season extends into mid-October like mine does, there's still more than enough time to grow a healthy crop. Most cucumber varieties only need around 60 days from sowing to harvest, and some mature even faster. Favorites like Socrates and Tender Green can begin producing in as little as 55 days, making them excellent choices for a midsummer planting. If you've already harvested early crops or have an empty section in your garden, now is the perfect opportunity to put that space back to work. You can sow cucumber seeds directly into the garden if the soil is warm, or you can start them in seed trays and transplant them later once another bed opens up. Both methods work well during July, provided you keep the soil evenly moist while the seeds are germinating. The biggest challenge this time of year isn't the temperature, it's keeping the soil from drying out too quickly. Water consistently, and your new cucumber plants will establish quickly and begin climbing before you know it. Plant 2. Bush beans. Another fantastic crop to plant in July is bush beans. If you're looking for something dependable that produces a harvest relatively quickly, bush beans are hard to beat. Many varieties reach maturity in about 55 days, leaving plenty of time to enjoy fresh beans before the fiercest autumn frost. One variety I especially enjoy growing is Dragon Tongue. It's productive, attractive, and consistently performs well during the warmer months. When sowing beans in July, I prefer to plant them directly where they'll grow instead of starting them indoors. I usually space them at roughly 9 plants per square foot, then cover the area with a generous layer of chopped leaves or clean straw. That mulch serves an important purpose. Summer heat causes moisture to disappear from the soil very quickly. By covering the planting area, the mulch slows evaporation and keeps conditions much more favorable for germination. Fortunately, bean seedlings are strong enough to push their way through a layer of straw or shredded leaves without any trouble. Unlike delicate crops such as lettuce, they emerge with very little difficulty. If you're planting beans this late in the season, pay attention to the maturity date listed on the seed packet. Pole beans that require 90 days or more may not have enough time in areas with shorter growing seasons. Instead, choose faster maturing varieties so you'll have a reliable harvest before freezing temperatures arrive. Selecting the right variety now makes all the difference later. Plant 3. Summer squash. Summer squash is another excellent option for July planting. Whether you enjoy zucchini, patty pan squash, or yellow squash, these plants can continue producing right up until frost as long as they're healthy. Fast-growing varieties are especially valuable because many begin producing in roughly 60 days and continue setting fruit over an extended period. Even if you already have squash growing, planting another round is a smart idea. Early season plants sometimes suffer from insects, diseases, or simple wear after producing heavily for several weeks. Having younger plants ready to replace older ones keeps your harvest going much longer. There's another advantage to planting now. In many regions, squash vine borers become much less active toward the end of July. By the time your new squash plants reach the stage where they're most vulnerable, the worst of the egg-laying period may already be over. That means your plants often have a better chance of reaching full production without suffering severe vine borer damage. You can sow squash seeds directly into the garden, but I usually prefer starting them in trays. Once seedlings develop 2 healthy true leaves, I transplant them into open spaces around the garden. If an older squash plant begins struggling, I simply remove it and replace it with one of the younger plants that's already off to a strong start. It's an easy way to keep production rolling throughout the season. A simple trick for better summer germination. One of the biggest obstacles to planting during July is the intense heat. Seeds dry out quickly, and young seedlings often struggle under the harsh afternoon sun. Without a little extra protection, germination rates can drop dramatically. To solve that problem, I start many of my summer crops in seed trays placed beneath 40% shade cloth. The shade reduces the intensity of the sunlight while still allowing enough light for healthy growth. More importantly, it keeps the growing medium from drying out as rapidly, giving seeds a much better chance to germinate successfully. I also protect young plants with lightweight insect netting. This creates a simple barrier against pests like cucumber beetles and squash vine borers without relying on chemical sprays. By the time the seedlings are ready for transplanting, they're already stronger and much better equipped to handle garden conditions. Think of it as creating a small summer nursery for your seedlings. If you don't have a setup like this, starting seeds indoors is another excellent option. Just remember that indoor-grown seedlings need to be hardened off before moving permanently outside. Gradually exposing them to outdoor conditions over several days helps prevent transplant shock and allows them to adapt to brighter sunlight, stronger winds, and higher temperatures. Taking a little extra time during this stage can make a huge difference in how well your plants establish once they're in the garden. And that's only the beginning. In the next section, we'll cover several cool season crops that many gardeners assume are finished for the year, but are actually perfect candidates for planting in July if you're planning ahead for a productive fall harvest. Plant 4. Carrots are one of those vegetables that can easily be planted in July, but they do require a little extra attention during germination. Unlike many other crops, carrots don't transplant well. Their delicate taproot develops almost immediately, so it's always best to sow the seeds directly where they'll mature. The biggest challenge isn't planting them, it's keeping the soil consistently moist. Carrot seeds can take anywhere from 10 to 14 days to germinate, and throughout that entire period, the soil needs to stay damp. During the heat of July, that's easier said than done. Many gardeners try covering the bed with mulch, but carrot seedlings are simply too delicate to push through a thick layer. Instead, here's a simple trick that works incredibly well. After sowing your seeds, water the area thoroughly and place a wooden board directly over the planted row. The board shades the soil from direct sunlight and dramatically reduces moisture loss, creating the ideal conditions for germination. After about a week, begin checking underneath the board every day. The moment you see tiny green shoots emerging, remove the board immediately so the seedlings can receive sunlight and continue growing normally. Another reason I love planting carrots in July is that they'll continue improving as the season progresses. Cooler autumn temperatures actually make carrots sweeter, and in many climates, they can remain in the ground long after the fairest frost. In fact, harvesting fresh carrots during late fall or even early winter is one of the most rewarding experiences in the garden. Plant 5. Lettuce. Lettuce may seem like an unusual choice for July, but with the right approach, it can thrive. The challenge isn't growing lettuce, it's helping young seedlings survive the summer heat. Much like carrots, lettuce seeds need consistent moisture while germinating, and they're too delicate to force their way through heavy mulch. Instead of sowing directly into the hottest part of the garden, I prefer starting lettuce in seed trays placed beneath shade cloth. This gives the seedlings a much cooler environment while they establish healthy roots. If you don't have shade cloth, don't worry. A naturally shaded location works surprisingly well. Even filtered sunlight beneath a tree or beside taller plants can provide enough protection to help young lettuce get started. Once the seedlings have developed a healthy root system, transplant them into the garden. You can even use your existing crops to create natural shade. Tall peppers, tomatoes, or trellised beans provide filtered afternoon sunlight that helps lettuce cope with summer temperatures while it becomes established. When selecting varieties, look for those specifically bred for heat tolerance. Slow bolting lettuces generally perform much better during July than traditional varieties, giving you a longer harvest before warm weather encourages cowering. Plant 6. Swiss chard. If you're looking for one of the toughest leafy vegetables you can grow, Swiss chard deserves a place in your garden. It's one of those rare crops that performs beautifully in both hot summers and cool autumn weather. Even during stretches of intense heat, healthy Swiss chard continues producing fresh leaves with very little complaint. If you didn't plant any earlier in the season, July is still an excellent time to get started. One of the biggest advantages of Swiss chard is its long harvest window. Instead of producing for only a few weeks, the plant continues supplying fresh leaves well into autumn and often survives light frosts with no problem. Another benefit is its holy flexibility. Unlike many vegetables that demand full sun all day long, Swiss chard is perfectly happy growing in partial shade. If you have an area where cucumbers or squash struggle because of limited sunlight, Swiss chard is often an excellent replacement. It's productive, nutritious, easy to grow, and rewards you with continuous harvests for months. Plant 7. Brassicas. Many gardeners assume cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, and kale are strictly spring crops. The truth is that July is actually the perfect time to begin your fall brassica garden. Although it may seem early to think about autumn, many brassicas require several months to reach maturity. Some cabbage varieties, for example, need close to 100 days from seed to harvest. Fortunately, these vegetables don't mind cool weather. In fact, many of them become sweeter and develop better savor after experiencing light frosts. For that reason, I like to start my brassicas in trays, where I can better control moisture, temperature, and sunlight while the seedlings are still young. Once they've developed strong roots, I transplant them into the garden on an overcast day whenever possible. If bright sunshine is unavoidable, a temporary shade cloth for a few days helps reduce transplant stress while the plants settle into their new home. Getting these crops started now means you'll be harvesting crisp cabbage, beautiful broccoli, flavorful cauliflower, and tender kale just as many summer vegetables begin slowing down. Some kale varieties are especially impressive. I've grown white Russian kale that continued producing throughout much of winter with very little protection. Having fresh greens available during the cold months makes the effort of planting them in July more than worthwhile. Plant 8. Beets. Beets are another excellent crop to sow this month. They're one of my favorite vegetables because almost every part of the plant is edible. The roots are delicious, roasted, pickled, or steamed, while the leafy tops make excellent cooking greens. Most beet varieties mature in around 60 days, leaving plenty of growing time before the fairest frost arrives. Even better, both the roots and leaves become sweeter as temperatures begin cooling during autumn. For the best results, sow beet seeds directly into the garden rather than transplanting them. After planting, cover the bed with only a light layer of mulch. Unlike carrots, beet seedlings are strong enough to push through a thin covering while still benefiting from the extra moisture retention it provides. Keep the soil consistently watered during germination, and before long you'll have healthy young plants ready to produce one of the most versatile crops in the garden. We've reached the seasonal part of today's list, and these last two crops are some of the easiest to grow during the hottest part of the season. We'll also take a quick look at how the tomato garden is progressing and wrap up with a few final thoughts to keep your garden producing well into fall. Plant 9. Red Malabar spinach. If you're searching for a leafy green that actually enjoys hot weather, red Malabar spinach is an outstanding choice. Despite its name, it isn't a true spinach. That's actually one of its biggest advantages because traditional spinach struggles once summer temperatures climb, often bolting before you can enjoy much of a harvest. Malabar spinach is completely different. Instead of slowing down in the heat, it thrives. It's a vigorous climbing vine that produces thick, glossy leaves supported by striking red stems, making it just as attractive as it is productive. Depending on the variety and your growing conditions, you can expect your severest harvest in roughly 70 to 85 days. Once established, the vines grow rapidly and continue producing fresh leaves throughout the warm season. The leaves can be eaten fresh, although they have a slightly thicker texture than regular spinach. Some people notice a mild mucilaginous quality when eating them raw, similar to okra. Personally, I think they're at their best when lightly sautéed, added to stir-fries, mixed into soups, or combined with other greens. They hold their texture well and provide excellent nutrition throughout the hottest months of the year. If you have a trellis, fence, or any vertical support that isn't being used, red Malabar spinach is a fantastic crop to grow there. Plant 10. Basil. No summer garden feels complete without basil. If you haven't planted any yet, there's still plenty of time to do so. Basil loves warm temperatures, grows quickly, and rewards you with continuous harvests throughout the season. Whether you're making fresh pesto, adding it to salads, or pairing it with tomatoes, it's one of the most useful herbs you can grow. One of my favorite things about basil isn't just the summer flavor, it's the aroma. Every time I brush against the plants while working in the garden, that unmistakable fragrance instantly reminds me why summer gardening is so enjoyable. You can sow basil seeds directly into the garden, or start them in trays before transplanting them outdoors. Either method works well as long as the plants receive plenty of sunshine and consistent moisture. To keep your basil producing for as long as possible, make sure you remove the growing tips regularly. As soon as sower buds begin forming, pinch of the top of the stem just above a pair of healthy leaves. This encourages the plant to branch into multiple new stems instead of putting its energy into lowering and producing seed. The more often you harvest and pinch back your basil, the bushier it becomes, and the more leaves you'll have available for cooking throughout the summer. A quick tomato update. Before we finish, I wanted to give you a quick look at how the tomato plants are coming along. They're absolutely loaded with developing fruit. The foliage is a rich, healthy green, and the finerous clusters are beginning to ripen. This is always one of the most exciting times of the gardening season, because all the work you've put in over the past few months starts paying off. Tomatoes remain my favorite crop to grow. Watching the plants grow from tiny seedlings into large, productive vines covered with fruit never gets old. And the best part is that the season is still just getting started. There are many more harvests ahead, and I can't wait to see these plants continue filling out over the coming weeks. That's today's list of 10 crops you can still plant in July. Hopefully this proves that summer isn't the end of the gardening season, it's simply the beginning of another growing opportunity. While some spring vegetables are finishing up, countless others are just getting started. By planting another round of cucumbers, beans, squash, carrots, beets, and leafy greens now, you're setting yourself up for fresh harvests throughout late summer and well into autumn. And by getting your brassicas started early, you'll be enjoying cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, and kale long after many warm season crops begin slowing down. Gardening is always about looking ahead. The work you do today determines what you'll be harvesting weeks and even months from now. One of the most satisfying moments of the year is walking into the garden during late autumn and pulling fresh carrots from the soil, or picking kale while many gardens have already shut down for the season. Those harvests don't happen by accident. They're the result of planning ahead during July. If you found today's video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future garden updates and seasonal planting guides. I'd also love to hear from you. Which of these crops are you planning to plant this month? Or is there another July favorite that always performs well in your garden? Leave a comment below and share your experience. Your tips may help another gardener enjoy an even better harvest this season. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, keep growing, keep learning, and keep building a garden that feeds you for months to come. I'll see you in the next video. Happy gardening!